September on my birthday.
1962.
Long time, boy.
Wow.
So I've been here longer than I've been in Jamaica. That's it, boy. Born in country, St. Catherine.
So what age was you when you come here?
8.
8 years old.
8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, man. And when you come, it's a culture shock. Because you're coming from Jamaica, when the school, the kids are black, the teachers are black, and then in the environment, there's no black teachers. When we come, me and my twin brother, there's only 2 black kids in the whole school, all white kids.
Wow.
And every week, them want to fight with. Right? So we have to put up with all that. But with us, we fought back. And I remember a lot of the Pakistanis, they used to call them Pakis, and they always pick on them and beat them up, and they always do nothing. And I think some really now what's happening, but back in the day, they just were very passive. They would just let them beat them. We wouldn't do it. We would find anything, rock, stone, brick, and fight back. That's how it was.
So it was rough.
It was rough, man. I remember my brother, they beat my brother up at school, and I had to jump in, because it's your brother, and fight this guy. And next thing you know, all of them want to fight, and we fight, and I fight him, and he fight me. Blood everywhere. The teachers come and separate us, and they give me 6 of the best of the cane. If you know what the cane is, on your each hand, I get 6 of the cane.
Wow.
Right? On my hand, it's a black guy, and I let the other guy out. And from then, you realize that a lot of things are stacked against us as black people. It's in particular black men.
So
right?
So what race was the teacher? Black or
a white man. There was no black teacher then. There was
no
all white teacher. All white teachers when we come to school, which is okay. I get that because there was not much black people around.
Yes.
And in the early days, it's pure white people. I remember a guy, Mr. Holland, used to pick on this black boy, and the mother coming, the Jamaican woman come with a big stick, and she came in there and she gave him 2 licks.
That's give the teacher.
Yes, 2 licks, and he was never the same after. He said, "Listen, you're dealing with me, a Jamaican. Don't mess around with my son." And that's why I got a lot of respect for black women. Because back in the day, it was the women that stood up. They were strong. That's why I call these black girls, you're a strong black woman, you don't know it. It's there, it's in you. My mother demonstrated that yeah, it's strong. The men used to kind of like try to blend in. The women weren't having it because they wanted better for their kids. And I'm ashamed to say, but that was a fact. Right? I remember going to my first apprenticeship interview. I was the only black person, right? All white of them, 100 of them. And you're allowed to take your parents. And my mom came with me. And she looked at him and said, "Listen, do not let his pigment," this is words, "don't let his pigmentation be something that you're going to discriminate against him." In other words, because he's black. Yeah? And you know what? I got the job as a research technician because of her. She spoke up.
She made sure she made the point clear.
Never forget that. Never. So yeah.
And what year was that then, roughly?
I would have been about, well, I just finished school, about 16, 17. 16, you got me O levels. And then I was looking to get an apprenticeship. And Sibagaigi was a company. And I went in, I got the interview, took my mum all the way to Eagle Green Within Shaw. They had a big company there. And I looked around, and they're all white kids. There was not one black kid, not one.
Wow.
Only me.
So about them. So have you always lived? You live in the Moss Side area, or have you?
I don't live in Moss Side area. I used to live in most of Old Trafford.
So was that where you brought up? You know.
What happened when we came to the country? It was Old Trafford. It was on the border, Moss Lane East and Cornbrook Street, that area.
Okay,
Clifton, around that area, Clifton Street.
Yeah.
Them streets are gone now.
Yeah.
And then you used to have Shibines and Benguina and all them time. In them days, 1962, you walk down Alexander Road, pure shops, Woolworths, all sorts of shops around there.
Black one shop.
Yeah, no, it was white people. Black people back then. They only had a couple of shops, didn't have many shops. It's white people. We're talking 1962.
Okay.
Yeah. So you go in one shop, the egg shop. You go to another shop, record shop, just do records, nothing else. There was no supermarket. So it's a different era then, you know.
But what was it like around here in the
round here it was, you know, it was lively because of all the terrace houses we had, and everybody was like together as black people. You could go in another person's house and you're having a party. They don't know you, but you're black, they welcome you. We used to, as a young man, I used to sneak into a whole heap of parties, cellar parties and everything. That's all we had then, right? And I used to follow my bigger brothers going down there as a young guy, go down the cellar, and it was all good.
But do you think you only allowed cellar party back in the days because
that's all we had?
Because them wouldn't allow none of the
They
clubs and that.
wouldn't allow us. We couldn't get nowhere at all. It was only when the pioneers came and tried and got this piece of this land, well, the city council, and they built this due to Mr. Gore, Mr. Dougie, and all them guys came together, bus drivers and so on, and created this place for us, right? And if they didn't do it, we wouldn't have this place because we didn't have nowhere else.
So where was this started? Was it started
No,
here?
it started at Darcy Street. That's where them start. 1953, right? Before you were born, probably. Right, a year before I was born, 53. They met in Alexandra Road, in Alexandra Park. And there's a black professor, can't remember his name, was at the university, the first black professor. And he got together with them and created the club. They call it the Old Colonial Club at the time. And they met at Darcy Street, right, further on down. And then 1977 or 76, we got this place built. That's when I, as a younger man, got involved, right? So I got involved as a member, but at the same time, I was going through a personal transition myself. I'd given up my job, decided to go to university, and I had a family, and I studied economics because I was interested in economics and political economics and how that controls the world and so on. That's what I did. And so once I finished that now, I did my teacher training, and I worked in the adult education for about 30 odd years in adult education. But whilst I was doing that, I always knew I had to put something back in the community. So that's why Dougie and them guys saw me and got me involved in the club. And I used to advice sessions here. I don't know if you remember the first riot.
No, I wasn't here then.
Right, you were there. Well, the first riot, I was studying at the time. And then when I finished
what year was that?
Right, oh gosh, first riot now. It was 86 was when I started with the City Council Adult Education. Well, I think the riots was around 85, 84, something like that.
I was 3 years old.
Right, okay. And that first riot, that's the first time black people came out, black men in particular, and tried to say, look, we deserve to be heard. And as a result of that, I got taken on to do outreach work and to reach with a lot of black people. I used to meet them in the hall on a one-to-one.
So 1 second, yeah. How was that riot? Because you passed the riot there. So how was your experience at the riot, and what was it like?
Well, at the time, because there was a lot of racist people around as well, but somehow it just seemed to have ignited from the conditions, the way black people, in particular black men, were being treated. There's a lot of things going on then, and a lot of black guys were being victimized, all sorts of things, and you know what, they came to a point where they said, right, we've had enough. And the riot was just a way of showing your anger.
What was your experience, and did you not fight in the riot, or did you?
I didn't fight in the riots. I was older, and so I had a family, and I was studying at the time. But what happened, I then got involved through the club. And my contribution was to saying to a lot of them young guys, okay, we know what's going on. We know that a lot of them left school without, fulfilling their educational things. So my angle was about education and training, to sit down with them and say, look, what can we do to try and figure out a path for you to get to where you want to be. So my role was IAG, Information Advice and Guidance.
Okay.
So you sit down with a person on a one-to-one basis, and you talk about their past, what their experiences are, their present, what's happening with them now, or where they want to go in the future, and you map out a progression route for them. That's what I used to do.
For the community, for the
Yes.
black guys in the
Yes.
community.
I'll get referrals from the job centre. They used to have a job centre.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember I used to do sessions at the job centre, and there was a young black guy there, and the advisor, I was listening to it, somebody from Stockport, they rang this company from Stockport. We got a person here who's interested in the job, and they turned around and said, is the person black or white? Right?
That's the first question.
Right. So when you're asking that question, you know straight away.
It's not
That, and the black guy, you think about a young black boy was listening to that. So his impression is straight away, well, they're not interested in me.
No.
They're asking if I'm black or white. Right? So can you imagine the impact it's having on that person's mind?
Yeah.
Straight away. So it doesn't matter how good you are, they want to know if you're black or white. Right? They don't want no black guys in Stockport working at that time. That's what it was about. So there was a lot of racism going on, still is, but it was so obvious and out front back then, even worse than it is now.
Wow.
Worse than it is now.
So after the riot and in the community, how was the reforming of the community, and how did you see that? Did you see any progress after the riot in the black community?
Well, you know what, there was a lot of initiatives. They set up the task force, government funded task force, and they put a lot of money in it. And people like John Paul, they set up a newspaper, a recording studio was set up as well. In the, remember the precinct?
Well,
All
that
that
was
was set
here,
up.
but I read about it.
Right, all that was set up. And so there's a lot of resources that was thrown at it. But some people benefited, but I still feel that they lost out big time. There was not enough because the government pulled the plug.
Okay.
Yeah? And when they pull the plug, that's it. That's one of the reasons why I don't like being dependent on government and grants to survive. And you see the club? Everybody calls West Indian Sports and Social Club. Everybody. But I've been doing the finances nearly 30 years now. Right? I do it for free. I clean the place for free. Right? You see me, I'm here. I'm doing the toilets tomorrow. I do the VAT because we're not paying anybody. But the thing is, we generate our own income. And when black people generate their own income, you can control your destiny.
Yes.
When you're dependent on grants and handouts, Captain, and you've got to do what they say when they say.
Yeah.
That's the problem with a lot of organisations. That's that meeting I had today with other black organisations. They're all dependent on grants. I said to them, look, we as black people, nothing's changed. All them years ago, still going on about grants and getting this. I said, no. Start income generating. Get our young people to be entrepreneurs so they can make income and put money back in the community. That is my philosophy.
Yeah.
Right? And that is what needs to happen.
So what was some of the changes that you've seen since the whole riot situation that you said that you think was...
Well,
yeah, because yeah.
Well, I from personal point of view, I know I can see some more young youths now going on to higher education. My grandson now, he's gone on to university. Yeah, so there's a progression. So we started from a situation in 6th yard where we had no black professionals at all, right? And so we were at school, and then it gradually progressed. People like my age, you got an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then. If you're lucky like me now, I wasn't satisfied with that, so I went back to uni as a mature student. But the next generation now, they're going and straight to university from school. So there is some progression. There is. And I know people think there is, but I've noticed a lot of young people now are going straight from school into university, which means they're getting further up the ladder and they can start to generate the wealth that the black community needs. That's what we need. Our own young youths now, investing in them so they can generate the wealth to help put back in the community. Because that's been my message. And from day one, since I started city council, I've always said I'm putting something back in this community. Always. So when I come here and drink my rum, I don't care.
So for example, is there no single organization that you could call out that you could say yes, you've seen, because you've been around, like I said, since 1962. You've seen a lot. You've seen a lot of changes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot's come, lot's gone. But what I'm saying is, since that riot, that was for the the people and fought for the inequality. Yeah, I'm saying, is there any single organization that you could say, okay, you're seeing that they help in a certain way where they make a big difference in that way, where people have benefited, where black people have benefited around Moss side and Old Trafford, Hume side, because this was where the black community was.
Well, what you might not know is Moss Side and Hume Development Trust, right?
Okay.
Millennium. I was the chair before Hartley, right?
Okay.
And I went to London with white woman. We got the funding to build that place when I was the chair.
So is that the Millennium Center?
Millennium Center, and that used to do advice and guidance and all sorts of stuff. That was supposed to be an asset for our community. Now I pulled away from it because I wasn't happy with certain things that was going on. And you see me, I don't like to call and bring down black people.
No.
But there were certain things between him and Bisson, right? Nicky Bisson.
Yeah.
Right? So I said to myself, you know what? I don't want to get caught in that corruption. And next thing you know, they're in trouble with the Charity Commission. You see? So I saw it coming. But that was set up to benefit our community.
So
right?
was you part of the person who set up the Millennium, who helped to build it? Designed the whole thing?
I was the chair at the time.
Yeah. So at what stage did you leave?
I left after the building was completed, right? And we got to a point now that there was a difference of opinion with other people and what certain practices are going on. And I said to myself, you know what?
Well, we don't want to get too deep into, because
that's exactly what it is.
But what I will ask you is, what was the purpose of the unit from your knowledge? Because you was part of the setup, so you would have known why the units was there.
The whole idea was to provide some managed workspaces. You see all the units in it. So somebody a community person wanted to start a business. Got a little unit there, pay the rent, and they've got somewhere that they can start a little business. That's the whole idea. And then you had other community organisations who needed a space to run other activities, like the Saturday school. They had a Saturday school there as well. So there was a lot of activities going on that was supposed to benefit the community. That was the ethos of the whole thing. It was about providing a space so our community can grow.
But was any of that was supposed to be free for the community, or was it
that was one of the problems. The issue, you see, is to make that place work, they have to have income coming in.
True.
And so therefore they have to charge the space. And so therefore there was not a situation where somebody who could go in there for next to nothing, and it just didn't happen. The funding wasn't there for them.
So they didn't used to get funded for that place?
No. So they had to charge for rent, things like that. So even if you want to go to a meeting over there, they'll charge you. And that's one of the reasons why with the Sports and Social Club, what I've always said is, as long as I'm involved, if a community group organisation wants a meeting and they ain't got no money, we'll have that meeting.
So when you was there, was the properties that the club owned, was that part of the asset while you was there, or did that came after you was gone?
What you mean, the centre?
No, not the centre, like the businesses that's owned by the Millennium Center, because it owned quite a few buildings, innit?
It owned this building because he has a couple of buildings on Princess Road as well.
Yeah, that's what.
And they were rented out at the time. Yeah. And so the whole idea was that those buildings would provide them the income that they be able to be self-sufficient.
Yeah, no, I understand. But what I'm saying is, so for them to be charging a certain the community, to help them to get on the fee, then you'd have to say, okay, the fee would have to be at a certain,
correct.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But if they're charging on a certain level, at a certain level where the money is enough where they can pay how much staff and they can save and then end up investing in properties, then they must be earning a good money.
No, it didn't work like that. What happened, the task force, the government, they gave them money at the same time to purchase those buildings on Princess Road and all those other places.
Okay, so
it didn't come. It didn't come after.
Okay.
It came at the same time, so we got all that came through government funding.
So that's why was you there when that was part?
Yeah.
Okay,
I was there.
All right. So you said that was part of what to help the community and the whole.
That was the whole idea. It was an asset, a community asset. But the problem is, if you've got a charging policy which is going to exclude people who can't afford it, then it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
So.
Which is the people it's supposed to be running for.
Correct. That's right. So it's difficult, and I get it, because on the one hand they need the money to maintain the buildings, otherwise you lose it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you needed some funding to be able to say to somebody who's a young person, okay, we're going to give you 6 months, a year of
free,
whatever. You with me? To give you an opportunity to get your business going. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, that's the right thing to do, but you need to have the money to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So it's a different,
it's a catch-22,
catch-22 situation.
Yeah. I can understand from you explaining it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what these guys need to do, explain themselves, because a lot of people make it sound like, well, even you've not been in there from them time, but at least you've explained the situation, and it sounds understandable from what you're saying, because like I said, you're damn if you do, you're damn if you don't, because they need to get money to run it, but at the same time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they gave us a situation which you're either going to fail if you don't charge, it was an awful situation. What they didn't give was enough money to be able to enable us to write off the cost of those startup entrepreneurs who needed a break from their rent, to say, right, 6 months free or whatever. That had happened, then you'd give them a chance.
But maybe the whole idea was when the property generate enough money, because there was bought outright, then that should be able to generate enough money.
That was the theory.
To throw back into the centre, which would then be keeping it running. But then probably that wasn't the idea.
That was the idea.
Yeah. But but it's a good thing anyway. Like you said, there's some benefit that came out. You know what I mean? It probably didn't work out to the full, but that's just how life is. So what other experience you think that
And then, I mean, like, I'm also a trustee. I'm treasurer for the Louis Dakakodia Education Trust.
So explain that.
And now Louis Dakakodia was one of the what I call the matriarchs. He was an original with the the Camel Road.
Camel Road.
Yeah, my mother was involved years ago in starting.
So just explain to the younger ones Camel Road, because this is the whole reason why I'm making this.
Right.
A lot of them don't know certain things, you know. So
yeah.
Camel Road was one of.
Yeah, it was the West Indian Center, but behind Camel Road, the whole idea was all the Caribbean islands were represented. Yeah.
At Camel Road.
At Camel Road, and we were instrumental in helping it to start. The whole idea was that it wasn't just about going there for music and dance, but there's an education element to it and other elements to it as well. That's why at Camel Road you've had a lot of black book, what do they call them, sales and all sorts of events. So Camel Road had its idea. It was not just about that. It was also at a committee, the coordinating committee, and he had representatives from each of the islands. That was the whole idea. But again, it suffered. It's been handicapped by what's happened to it. And we tried to support Camel Road. We had the meetings here for them here because we wanted them to succeed.
But they didn't succeed.
It didn't succeed because you know what's happened. The council, they built that big housing project right next to them. So that means the one means of making income, late night stuff like that at the bar, they're complaining, so they couldn't do that. It's difficult for them. And it's did the same thing with Naya.
But it's funny you say that now because that's two places. But don't you think they will do the same thing here?
Well, I am aware of it. That's why I'm fighting it.
Because right there, you can see they start putting bricks in that. So what's gonna happen?
Well, they've been using it as a storage
Yeah.
dump at the moment. What they have to do, they've got to give us notice that they are planning permission
Yeah. To
by law, and we've got to comment on it.
Yeah.
So, but at the moment, nothing's there right now. But we are aware of the fact that any moment our city council could turn around and say, we want to build houses there. Because once they build houses there, you're going to put us in problems for later,
I know.
as you know.
Yeah.
And little by little, all of them been closing down.
Yeah.
And I've been fighting it now for a long time. And I've been flagged. It's not the first time I've been flagged up. I've said, look.
But do you think people in the community is gonna say that you guys made that mistake though by selling this land, because this land was the ROAB in it?
We didn't sell the land. It wasn't our land. That's the mistake. People don't understand. It was city council land.
So,
what happened was the RAB was in disrepair, falling down.
yeah, but who owned the ROAB? And was that
The city council
owned it?
City council. We didn't own it. We bought the
lease.
Yeah. What happened is with the RAB, the roof was caving in. This roof was caving in, right? So we had to save one to survive. And we saved this one, and the money we got from that one saved this. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Okay.
We would not be here today. It was as simple as that. City council owns this land. They own this building, but we had a 99-year lease on this building.
So many years you've got left?
We're halfway through it.
Halfway through.
Yeah.
So do you think they will renew it?
Well, if I'm still around, I don't know. But the point is, this is why we want more young, creative black people getting involved, gone to university now, they know the law, they know this and that. This is what we want. You understand? To take up the mantle and say, right, okay, we're going to take it to another level. We've done what we've done to try and keep it going. But I want the next generation to come along and say, yeah, okay.
So Tom, I know we have to go, yeah. So check it now, yeah. How important would you say this building is, not only to like families of deceased, like who is having but to like older male, mental status, like in the evening time, you notice people come here to play dominoes and you know, for the social part of it, and that's very important.
It is very important because, as I said, to me, it's like a beacon. It's the one constant in, especially the Windrush generation. It's the one constant that they know. West Indian Sports and Social has always been here, and they can come in, and if they've got a fiver, whatever, they can buy a little double room and whatever, and chat with their friends and so on. It's very good for their mental state. So, from our point of view, and every African Caribbean family in Manchester, one way or the other, they've had a connection to this club through either family dying or whatever. So it binds us all together.
It does.
It's the one place where we come together and celebrate someone's life. I remember when Slim passed away, and he's my ex-son-in-law, brother-in-law. Slim, I was married to his bigger sister, and it brought a lot of people together, and we're all together as one. And the environment that it created, it was beautiful. It showed black people can come together, and they need somewhere to grieve and celebrate someone's life. And this place, for me, has been played a key role in doing that.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yes, Dan.
Okay.
Nice talking to you.